Right, so we've reached that point in my ranking of Frank Zappa's tours that my hardcore personal biases are going to like distort what may be the objective truth if such a thing exists. So there are two bands or sort of two eras of Frank that I rank above all others. They just can do no wrong. Even the songs that I might not like on other tours, I like on these tours. And those two bands' eras are going to comprise one, two, three, four, five, six, seven of the top 10 tours. We're at 14 right now. We're not even to 10. I'm telling you right now, two eras have 7 tours and they're essentially going to dominate the top 10. And mainly what it comes down to is at this point is I think all the remaining 14 tours, and I would say even include Fall 75, the 15th tour, those tours are almost all equally awesome on sort of a objective level, which I know doesn't exist when we're talking about music, right? But I'm trying to find like the right analogy, but it's almost like, and beer was the only thing I could come up with. Like I don't drink a lot. I'm a social drinker, right? And really what I enjoy most about drinking is going to like here in America, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but the microbrewery business, especially here in San Antonio, where we're probably 4 or 5 years behind the rest of the United States, like microbrews, or if that's what they call them, do they call them microbrews anymore? They're popping up all over the place. And my favorite part about going to get beer is like going to a new place and getting like a flight of like 5, whatever size that is, and enjoying 5 different flavors, and then ultimately at some point when I go get like an actual pint, I'm probably going to get like a porter or a bock because that's what I like. But I equally enjoyed that flight. And so I figure like these 15 tours that remained, I like them all. But if I have to do something stupid like rank them and qualify them and qualify them and quantify them with numbers and all that stuff, I have to come up with lame excuses why. And so pretty much what it's coming down with is these are all amazing tours. And I think some of Frank's best playing, in fact, I would argue that Frank's best guitar playing, just consistently night after night after night, are on the 4 tours that are not going to make the top 10. But my problem is, as I will discuss in this, is there are 10 tours where I don't think there's a single song played on any given night that I don't love. Like, because a lot of these tours are earlier, some of the songs are debuted, and by the time they reach the tours that are going to be later on the list, obviously I've heard them so many times that they've lost whatever magic they originally had. But again, they have more magic because the original band does them, and other bands are essentially doing cover versions of Frank's own songs, right? I mean, essentially. A George Duke Inca Roads is not the same thing as a Tommy Mars Inca Roads, no matter how hard you sell it. So anyways, the difference is I'm putting some great tours out of the top 10, tours that are friggin' spectacular, that with any other artist, they would be their best tour, or maybe on any given night, they are my favorite tour. But I'm at that point where I'm like, if I want to go back and listen to something and know that I'm going to enjoy it from start to finish, and there aren't going to be songs that I want to fast forward to or skip, or now that we're in the digital age, I don't have to fast forward to them. I can go straight to just the ones I want to hear. There's still a handful of tours in which there's way too many songs played that I don't want to hear night after night after night. And so that's why they fall where they do. And I've just gone on like this for no reason. Let's get to the tour, to the video. And I'm going to enjoy a beer while I'm doing it because it's holidays. Hello, my name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and I'm currently ranking and reviewing all 26 of Frank Zappa's tours that he played during his lifetime, as I have determined for them to be tours. Like all the 60s I've clumped into one, so we could argue for weeks about how wrong that is. But anyways, I'm heading from 26 to number 1. I am now on number 14, and this is the 1981 tour, essentially the fall 1981 tour from late September through mid-December. A whole bunch of shows, United States and Canada. This is an amazing band. There are 3 complete shows released on Halloween '81 and a whole bunch of other material released from this band. It is a great tour, and I would also argue that possibly one could put forth the case that the month of November of this tour is his best guitar solo month ever. His most consistent run of where the peaks were high, the lows were not that low, and it was just sustained brilliance for like almost an entire month. I would also argue that some of those solos are some of the best solos Frank ever played. Ultimately, I would say that the '79 tour has his best solos, but there's a whole bunch of solos from November of '81 that you could hold up and say, no, 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 this is better than anything from '79. And I think you'd have a battle there. That's how incredible moments of this tour are. But I had to find a reason to put it at 14, or I had to find a reason to put something at 14. And so my complaints with this are pretty minor, but at this point, a minor complaint about a tour is going to be enough to knock it because that's how good the quality is for Frank. It is essentially 2 tours as far as quality goes. Like the September up through Halloween is great, Frank. Like maybe fall '80, great Frank, but even a little bit better than fall '80, great Frank. It's great Frank. But then from like November 1st through the middle of December, you have like all of a sudden almost the best Frank ever. So you really have almost like, so this is who's in the band, and this kind of explains how this works, right? So Frank Zappa's on guitar and vocals. Steve Vai is back. He was there in fall '80, but he has much more of a presence on this tour, and then even more so on the '80 tour. And his presence you can feel in the songs that Frank is debuting, just sort of the attitude of Frank's guitar playing. He's given more stuff to do in other songs, you know, so like the You Are What You Is material is now just much more, you know, Vai enhanced. It's just Vai is being utilized much more. Ray White on vocals. Ed Mann is back, and he's now on percussion. You can also hear his presence a lot. Ed Mann is bringing a lot to the band also. Tommy Mars is still around on keyboards. Bobby Martin is now joined the band on keyboards and sax. And you have the new rhythm section of Scott Tunis and Chad Wackerman. And it does almost seem like those first 5 weeks from late September 27th, right, to the Halloween show, the documented Halloween show, was like their learning curve. And then once they hit November, like they figured out how they worked, and they worked well. It's been one of the most interesting things about doing this project and listening to like concentrated masses of shows from a tour once again, is just how like the rhythm sections worked and what they sort of provide Frank over, you know, the landscape that they give him to solo. And more often than not, when I like am really lost in like one of the solos from '81, there's a very sort of like electronic dance, almost like Nine Inch Nails techno groove that Tunis and like Wackerman will like lock into. And Tunis, I think, is a lot more repetitive and does a really good job of like veering off into these really interesting detours before like hopping right back into the groove. And Wackerman reminds me a lot of Ralph Humphreys, who I've also been listening to a lot lately. They both just kind of lock into these like rhythmic patterns that they like churn while adding all these just extra, I don't know, it's hard to describe. But the Tunis Wackerman, when they are at their peak, the sort of landscape they provide Frank, it doesn't sound like music. It just sounds like just this other thing they've created. I don't know, it's hard to describe. But listen to these '81 shows and it will just like, you will clearly understand what I'm talking about. But it took them till October to reach that point. And I think one of the most interesting listens is in real time, if you listen back to back to back, the 3 shows on the Halloween '81 discs. Halloween '81 release, which is 3 shows. It is the early show on the 31st, the late show on the 31st, and then the show on the 1st. That early show on the 31st is good. I mean, it's probably great. But the guitar solos, as hard-hitting as they are all tend to be like within very safe parameters. The Halloween Late show starts to feel just a little more expansive. And then the November 1st show, all of a sudden, it seems like all of a sudden Frank really is like, all of a sudden, I'm going to say that as many times as possible, Frank is really starting to just push those boundaries and like get outside and like just explore. And you can feel like he's realized how good Wackerman and Tunis are, and everybody is like gelling for the first time. And it really almost seems like in real time, you can see how the band just all of a sudden just starts soaring up. And it just gets amazing all the way through November. But anyways, yeah. So that's who's in the band. I didn't really have a plan on how to talk about this other than defend the fact that I threw it at 14, despite containing some of the best guitar solos ever. Special guest Al Di Meola appears at the infamous Ritz show. There is a really good sounding tape of this show out there. I'm almost positive it exists on YouTube, though I did not check. But this is the so Al Di Meola shows up in the encores and plays on a song. These are the encores. I want to say it might have been a radio performance, which is why it was like there's such a good recording of it out there. I haven't listened to it recently, only because I've been listening to other 81 stuff, because this is almost like one of the first tapes, if you're trading, you get, but there's a reason it's worth it. The encores, right? Trying to grow a chin into Strictly Gentile. Then they bring Al Di Meola out and play Clowns on Velvet, and he shreds, and it sounds ridiculous. Then, as Clowns is winding down, Frank explains sort of a Sting story. I think he met Christopher Cross, and he was going to sing at the show, but he couldn't make it, or something about that happened. Something about meeting Christopher Cross. So Brian, the roadie, is going to sing Ride Like the Wind instead, and Al Di Meola sticks around and plays guitar on this. It is one of the greatest things ever. It is just a spectacular moment. Then they play Zoot Allures, an R&B 50 song called This Is My Story, whipping post, and then they end the show with Watermelon and Easter Hay. It's ridiculous. But that's the 11/17 show. Just one of the greatest shows Frank has ever played. And then Lisa Popeil is at one of the shows. You can hear that Lisa's life story on You Can Do That on Stage Volume 6. And then on that same show, Nicholas Slonimsky plays piano. Sorry, I don't know who that is. But anyways, amazing set list. Oh, that's another reason why. I sort of had the perception that the Fall 80 tour had way too much You Are What You Is material on it. When in fact it probably had too much Tinseltown Rebellion material on it. And that was the perception I had, though it was wrong, but still just my lack of interest in those songs sort of loomed over that entire tour. This tour actually has more You Are What You Is songs in it and Tinseltown Rebellion songs in it. But the guitar playing is so incredibly just high level that it's able to sort of make up for the fact that these songs are there. But in reality, as I've been going back and listening to some of these shows, like the first part of the shows, it's generally like almost like a Grateful Dead show where you have like a first set and a second set, and the first set is all these shorter songs. Maybe there's a jam in there, but then you get to the second set and all of a sudden who knows what's going to happen. That's a way a lot of these shows feel, is the first half of the show has your like You Are What You Is runs, the Charlie's Enormous Mouth bit, which I enjoy better than the You Are What You Is part. You get a lot of Tinseltown Rebellion songs, a lot of Montana. That's a song where, like, without the guitar solo, I'm not sure I want to hear Montana. I've never liked that abrupt jump from like the second chorus into the "Oh, ride a small tiny horse" without the guitar solo. It didn't work for me. You need that guitar solo. It makes that like post-solo vocal weirdness like better. So I've never enjoyed that. And there's a lot of Montanas. So there are just a lot of things early on, but then the second half of the shows are friggin' spectacular, and like they do no wrong. They're just amazing. So anyways, here are the songs Frank would generally play guitar in, because I think that's where the heart of this solo is in these songs, the songs and the solos, because the songs Frank is writing incredible songs once again. Like Steve Vai has inspired him to go in a completely different direction, is the way it seems to me. And then his guitar solos match the intensity of these new compositions. So Alien Orifice, perfect example. Incredible new song, really incredible, very attacking type solos. Bamboozled by Love, which I can do without. Black Napkins, the Black Page #2, which was pretty straightforward in the beginning of the tour and just kind of got weirder and weirder towards the end of the tour. You can kind of hear that. I think there's 2 Black Page #2s on the Halloween. I think you can hear the difference from 1 to 2 on those. City of Tiny Lights, which, I don't know. It's one of those that's pretty hit and miss. Sometimes, to me, this is another one where that band that is going to be up on that list, the 77-78 band, their City of Tiny Lights were so perfect that I just, for some reason, that's a song that I want to always like more than I do. But there were some good City of Tiny Lights solos out here. Chunga's Revenge, which is always a winner. Cosmic Debris, The Deathless Horsey, Drowning Witch, which are absolutely career highlights. The solos during the Drowning Witches on this tour are phenomenal. Dumb All Over has a solo in it. These are good. Easy Meat, Illinois Enema Bandit, King Kong, Nigbiz, short little like bluesy one, Pound for a Brown on the Bus, Sexual Harassment in the Workplace. That track is from this tour. Charlena, Sinister Footwear 2, the vamp over which that guitar solo is changes over the course of the tour, so that's an interesting progression. And I think you hear the early vamp on the Halloween '81 release where it's over the do-do-do-do-do-do, that keyboard thing that Mars does on the Alp studio version or the Them or Us version. He solos over that, and you don't ever drop into the dun-dun. And then later in the tour, that pops up in the best show of the tour, which I'll talk about later. What else was I talking about? Stevie Spanking, Suicide Chump. Suicide Chump, a You Are What You Is track that played one of the most frequently played songs on this tour. I cannot stand that song. So that's another thing, one of those just like ultimate kind of bummers that exists like usually right in the middle of the set. And you're just like, But usually Suicide Chump sort of signifies the end of like the song portion, the vocal portion, and then we're usually off to the weirder stuff. So it's this weird sort of like, but then after that everything's going to be really good. Torture Never Stops. Torture Never Stops solos and the Yo Mama solos on this tour are also 2 tour songs, kind of like City of Tiny Lights, where I have such a strong attachment to other bands' versions that these kind of never live up to that. Torture Never Stops after 77, 78 after that tour, that song has to me been more like a showpiece. Like that 77, 78, they captured the intensity of that song and delivered on all aspects. It becomes something different when Frank resurrects it in the 80s, and I don't really enjoy it the same way I enjoy those early 70s versions. And the solos I don't think ever live up to the 77, 78 solos. And then Yo Mama's, I think the problem with Yo Mama is that is a song that Terry Bozzio and Patrick O'Hearn have to be the rhythm section for. Like, that is what they bring to that song, is that sort of slowly building up, like they build tension knowing that you're going to release tension. Like they have this weird, that's their style. The Kaliuta Barrow rhythm section, I don't think ever served Yo Mama as well as that. And Wackerman and Tunis can't serve Yo Mama as that because they are not, the fundamental relationship that they have as a drummer and a bass are not the same as what Bozzio and O'Hearn had. And so that was like lightning in a bottle. Again, that's 77, 78 tour. And that's another song, Yo Mama and The Torture Never Stops and City of Tiny Lights, that I think that band owned so hard that no other band can compare. That's just me. Treacherous Cretins, Watermelon and Easter Hay, and What's New in Baltimore. What's New in Baltimore, this is just peak guitar playing. This is like majestic and like uplifting, yet at the same time fierce. Like I think the Drowning Witch, What's New in Baltimore combo of guitar solos, those 3, because Drowning Witch has 2, is Frank maybe just like at his, like almost as high as 79, if not as high as 79. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal stuff. So yeah, He did not solo in Montana. That's the one he did not solo in. Bunch of new songs on this tour again, which make I think when the quality of new songs coming in is such high level, like everything else is gonna, the rising tide lifts all boats. But Alien Orifice debuts. Maybe that's all. Sinister Footwear 2, What's New in Baltimore. Just the addition, Stevie Spanky and that energy that Stevie... And Teenage Prostitute, that's another song that I don't think gets enough love. That is a crazy, crazy groove in that. Nigbiz, Ride Like the Wind, Lisa's Life Story, Frogs with Dirty Little Lips, which debuted live at the end of the tour. I think the last 2 or 3 shows had that played in it. Fine Girl, Fine Girl? No. Fine Girl debut on this tour? What I have in these notes. That wasn't on 80? No, I guess it was this tour. The only 2 Monster songs. Oh, there were 2 Monster songs. That's amazing. King Kong and Pound for a Brown on the Bus. You get percussion solos, keyboard solos, guitar solos. You get it all in those things. It's your typical sort of 80s. Everybody's bunch of people are going to get a chance to do their stuff. And sometimes there's, you don't really know where it's going to go sometimes. Really fun Monster songs. Other things that were kind of crazy about, before I go into like the particular songs, this is where you can hear this band if you're interested in checking out just how freaking amazing they are. The Halloween 81 release, you have 3 complete shows. The Dub Room Special, which I think has stuff, but it's also from Halloween 81, so that's repeated. There's a bunch of stuff on You Can't Do That on Stage Anymore, 1, 3, and 6, and I think all of those are also from Halloween. So maybe all of this stuff is from Halloween that's been released, and now it's just all on that. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But then a bunch of almost everything you hear on Them or Us, Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Prevention. There's I think The Dangerous Kitchen on Man from Utopia, and then Even Clowns on Velvet on the TF album. All those basic tracks are live recordings of this band doing those songs, and then these guitar solos have been sort of extrapolated from their songs and released on guitar, Chalk Pie, Things That Look Like Meat, Too Ugly for Show Business, Sexual Harassment in the Workplace, and Swans, What Swans? Those are all 81 solos, and they're all really friggin' good. Because his guitar playing is amazing. Other kind of weird things that happened on this tour worth talking about to make me question. Oh, Flakes. Flakes was played on this tour, and it was usually occurred about the midway point, right? Usually not the midway point as far back as Suicide Chump, but kind of like towards like the latter third, the latter part of the first third. And it's the first song that's not like either unreleased or brand new or relatively new, or like it's like a song everybody knows, right? It's on a really popular album, and every time they go into that dun-dun-dun, like you hear this like audible like yeah from the crowd because they recognize the song. And so Flakes always have this really like positive energy as the band responds to the crowd like waking up for the first time. That's noticeable, but some audience tapes, I guess. That's a fun little thing. Frogs with Dirty Little Lips appeared towards the end of the tour. Ride Like the Wind, one of the greatest things ever. Apparently, I have this in my notes. Christopher Cross was a childhood friend of Arthur Barrow, and when Arthur played this song for Frank, Frank proceeded to write in a matter of minutes, Teenage Wind. Oh, the response to Ride Like the Wind. I wonder if that is true. So that was played. Montana did not have a guitar solo. That's horrible. Trying to Grow a Chin was played on this tour, which is fun because Scott Tunis gets to sing it. And it usually does go into Strictly Gentile. The Yo Mamas I did not think were that good. And the Zoodalures on the Halloween 81 box set is, I think, the first time it's played on the tour. And it kind of falls apart. Bobby Martin kind of has a rough show. I think it's that final show in that box set. You can hear some off saxophone notes and some miscues, but it sounds so good, and the guitar solo is so friggin' amazing. And I think the song, as the band tightened up and became better at playing it, lost what kind of made it attractive in the first place. Like those 75, 76 versions, Frank was always messing with like the way he played it and adding little runs and, you know, simplifying it or making it just crazier. And then once the band really learned it, it kind of lost that and it became the same thing every night. But that first time when they play it, or at least whatever version that is on the Halloween 81 box set, it has a little bit of that like sloppy magic that I think that song needs. But anyways, I think that's all I have to say about that tour. There are some good shows out there. If you want, again, the 11/17 Ritz show is Ritz show sounds amazing. It's got a great set list. The 12/5 show has a running musical motif of Santa Claus is coming to town. That's fun. The Hartford show is just another really good, solid show. But the best show ever on this tour, maybe one of Frank's best shows ever, is 11/21. Pretty much almost anything from November, you're going to get a great show. But November 21st is ridiculous. And I pulled up the set list because it is just one of those shows where it's like, this is what Frank was capable of. The show opens up with Sinister Footwear 2, but not the song, the kind of that opening, and then it goes into the dun-dun guitar solo vamp. It goes into that. Frank comes out and plays the guitar solo, right? Because that's what you do. And then without doing band announcements or acknowledging the crowd in any way, shape, or form, they go right into Pound for a Brown on the Bus. After that, they go into Drowning Witch, What's New in Baltimore, and parts of this, I think it's the What's New in Baltimore. I don't think it's the Drowning Witch. Parts of the What's New in Baltimore, Frank used on, I think Frank Zappa on the studio version, or the Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers, a prevention version, which means there might exist a complete tape of this show out there that could be released in amazing sound quality. Just saying, gonna throw that out there. But then there's a Maggio, Returning Again, Alien Orifice, Teenage Prostitute 2, and then they go back into Sinister Footwear, into Envelopes, Stevie. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There's a King Kong later in the show, a Black Page. They close with a Brahms Lullaby. It's ridiculous. 11/21. It is a phenomenal show. Track that down. In fact, I want to say I saw it on YouTube when I was looking for it on YouTube. Dude, it is on YouTube. Coaster Magic X2 has posted it on YouTube. That is a phenomenal, phenomenal show. Check that out and then thank him for posting it and send him like a thank you card in the mail because that show is ridiculous. So anyways, yeah. And that's the number 14 tour. One of Frank's best shows ever. And it's on the number 14 tour. So that's stupid. I think I just failed this test, people. I'm going to finish this beer and then, I don't know, go outside and sweat because it's 80 degrees in December in Texas. All right. Peace, y'all. Take care. Let me know how I'm wrong and how wrong I am and all that stuff. And get prepared for a lot of talk about 2 tours in the weeks to come. All right. Peace, y'all. Bye.